All right. Hello, Audit and Fraud friends and family. Listen, we've been having some technical difficulties today, but we made it. And so let me just start with this. Think about the last time you were tempted to exaggerate just a little bit on a form. Maybe it was like your weight on your driver's license or your income on a credit card application. Why'd you do it? Because I think we do this because we want the world to see us as slightly better, slightly more successful than we actually are. And it feels harmless. Well, feels that way. That doesn't mean that it is. But what if you didn't just fudge the numbers? What if you invented an entirely different version of yourself that was so successful, so powerful that you felt like you deserved $1 million reward just for being you? So my question today is, where's the line between a white lie and a life-shattering crime? And more importantly, here's the kicker, because you're going to want to stay around for this one. How do you get caught on a day that doesn't even exist? Like, how does that happen? You're going to want to stick around for that one. Are you ready? Let's go.
Welcome to the Friday Fraudster Podcast. Join them as they discuss sad, funny, and sometimes disturbing fraud stories. Be sure to catch past episodes on your favorite podcasting platform or go to www.fridayfraudster.com.
All right. You heard the question that I asked. Have you ever fudged on anything just to make yourself look better? First, let me apologize for the sound today. You see this mic in front of me. This is not the mic that you're hearing me through. For some reason, I was having some technical difficulties today. So you're listening to me on the mic from the actual camera, and man, quality is not what I expect, but that's okay. That's okay. The question that I have for you, Heather, I see you're here. Have you ever fudged the numbers on any type of application, driver's license, credit card, anything? Have you ever done that before? And so, before I go a little bit further, let me just go ahead and bring up Stephanie today.
How's it
What's
going?
happening?
Better late than never.
Look, Stephanie was backstage. She was like, I can't hear you. And I'm sitting here trying to fix the mic and the speaker. She couldn't see me. She couldn't hear me. I hadn't had one of those technical difficulties in quite some time. It's been a while, but every once in a while it happens, right? And you just kind of work with it. So Stephanie, have you ever fudged on anything, any type of application or anything like that?
No, I can't say I have personally. I am way too OCD on if you lie
Not
about something, you're gonna
even
get
once?
caught.
Not even one time.
Maybe like something in elementary school, but nothing in adulthood, that's for sure.
I'm with you because it's scary, right? You never know what might happen. You know, you might claim on a credit card application that you make $800,000 a year, and when they find out you only make, 100,000, but you run up purchases, now what's going to happen? Or you might lie about your height or your weight or your eye color, and then when people see you, they're like, this doesn't look like the person, you know. So it's a dangerous
It's
game to play.
it's your goal weight that goes on your driver's license, right?
Ah, it's crazy, right? So Heather says, yeah, only in my personal life, but nothing harmful or fraudulent. Yeah. You know what? Speaking of the gold weight, you're right about that, right? Because I've got what I would call the last five that I need to get rid of. Right? And so you get these applications that you use to help you track and monitor your food intake and your beverage intake. And I lied on it. I lied. I did. And then I
Half a
realized,
bottle
say again.
half a bottle of red wine is like 350 calories, depending on the brand, just so
Right.
you know.
But then you realize that that doesn't help you at all. So, you eventually have to be truthful. But here's what I think. I think that for a lot of people, we have the urge to level up in life. Now, you have some people who have the urge to level up without doing the actual work. They really want the shortcut. But then that shortcut can kind of, well, um, leads directly to the U.S. Treasury Department during a global crisis. You see, the government eventually, how do I want to say this? The government eventually stopped looking at the needs and started looking at receipts. So let me explain what I mean by that. Today, we're going to talk about a case that's straight from the heart of Los Angeles, where one man decided to trade in his reality for a digital fantasy. You see, he wasn't this corporate shark or this high level hacker. He was someone you probably would have passed on the streets without a second thought. But on paper, this man was a mogul. Now, his downfall, it wasn't this complex investigation. It was a simple calendar error. So I want you to picture it with me. Picture it. It's Tuesday, March 17th, 2026, in the San Francisco International Airport. And a young man, 34-year-old named Bruce Chow, he steps off of a flight from Japan. You see, he's been away for a while, probably relaxing, maybe even thinking about his next move in the crypto market. And then he walks through customs. He blended into the crowd. To everyone else, he was just a regular traveler, but to the FBI, they had been waiting on his flight to return for months because Bruce wasn't just a tourist. In Koreatown, he was a local rideshare driver, doing Uber and Lyft and all that other good stuff. But in the federal database, he was the mastermind behind a $2 million ghost empire. Now, to understand what he had done, let's go all the way back now to 2020. The Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP loans, they were designed for speed. You see, the government was desperate to keep people employed. And so what they said during the pandemic was, show us the forms, tell us how many employees you have, and we're just going to hand you some money. Now, this money was a loan that somehow wasn't really a loan, but that's a whole nother story for a different day. It was supposed to be a lifeline, but it was built on trust. And here's what Bruce did. He realized that the banks were so overwhelmed that they weren't actually checking the math, checking the boxes behind what was happening. So, okay. Marsha, hey, you know what? How you been, Marsha? It's been a while. Marsha said, well, she says it right there. It's been a while. Okay. Now, Marsha, if you're just joining us today, we had a real late start. I had some tech issues. I'm running on my bad mic right now. My camera's on one leg, halfway standing up. But we're talking about Mr. Bruce Chow, who lied on some forms to get some PPP loans during the pandemic. He was a rideshare driver out in San Francisco, California. And as a rideshare driver, he claimed to be the CEO of a multi-million-dollar empire. Check this out now. Check this out. He created a company called Premier Republic. And on paper, he was the CEO of this powerhouse. Here's what he did. He told the lenders that Premier Republic had a monthly payroll now of $798,000. He claimed that his company made nearly $11 million in gross receipts in 2019. Now, Premier Republic didn't have an office, didn't have a single employee, didn't even have a business license in California. It was a complete ghost, just one guy driving Uber.
They didn't even check the big business licenses? They didn't even check that?
They didn't even check the business license.
Oh, my Lord.
Here's what happened. The bank saw the name Premier and they saw $11 million in revenue, and they wired Bruce almost $2 million.
Oh,
Okay, I'm going to pause right there and kick it over to you. What you think, Stephanie?
I'm a little shocked. I know there were a lot of banks that were just churning those loans out like crazy because they were, I mean, it was free revenue for them. They were getting paid for each of those loans. But man, to not even check, just like even just the business license, that's crazy. But
Isn't it
a lot of
crazy?
that happened during that time. So much of that money didn't even go to legit businesses or into our country. So it's
Yep. So when he got the $2 million or close to $2 million, he then quickly converted a big portion of it to Bitcoin, right?
I'm impressed though. Most people, when they steal, they don't, I think it was Kelly that said they don't steal to invest. Typically, they, go to Disney, buy some Louis Vuitton.
Yeah. But we talked about this before, though, right? You converted to Bitcoin because, to a certain extent, Bitcoin is hard to trace.
Getting a little better. They're opening things up. I know Kraken that this went through, they've got a excellent AML department. So they're starting to really come down on all of these people. So
Yeah, yeah. They are, because what ended up happening with him is, pursuant to a court warrant, the federal prosecutors, they've already seized at least 40 Bitcoins and other cryptocurrencies as a part of this particular investigation.
it doesn't sound like much, but I think in today's value, if you look at it today only, that's almost 700. It's actually almost 2.8 million. So government can make some money if they cash it out.
Yeah, yeah. So as of right now, the price of one Bitcoin is $69,917.74. As of right now, that's just one Bitcoin. Imagine that. Now, here's what I find interesting. Um, During the pandemic, a lot of us were scrambling, trying to figure out, how are we going to make money? How are we going to work? Not everyone worked for a company where they just received a salary during this time period. How does one, okay, it's easy to come up with his scheme. His scheme wasn't that sophisticated. He said, I'm going to fill out this loan documentation. I'm an Uber driver, but I'm going to call this company Premier something. I'm going to claim that I made X number of millions of dollars the year before and the year prior. I'm going to put it on the paperwork, and I'm going to see how much they'll give me. I imagine he was probably shocked when they gave him $2 million. But in the grand scheme of things, 2 million on 40 million revenue isn't that bad, if it was a legit company, right?
Right.
What I also find interesting, though, is he wasn't even a registered business in the state of California. And so what that tells me is, our due diligence procedures were so bad during the pandemic that we would just rubber stamp approving almost anything.
I'd be curious to know which institution you went through. Although I think the SBA, I know at the time, had a list of all the different banks that you could go to do these applications. So
Yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned the exact bank. I was trying to figure that out, right? Uh,
I mean, not that it
and so,
necessarily matters, but just curious.
I mean, I was curious. So I did a little bit of research, and I still couldn't find which bank it was. You thought I was going to give you the bank, didn't you?
Did you see his picture?
Wait, I didn't see his picture. You found his picture?
Yep. Yep, I found his picture.
Okay,
First link.
so Stephanie's going to send me his picture in the private chat, and I'm going to pull it up for everybody. But you guys want to stick around because you really want to see how he got caught, because how he got caught is the craziest thing that you ever wanted to see. You're going to say to yourself, how in the world could someone be that stupid? Okay, so I've got the picture, and if you guys will give me just one moment, we'll pull up the picture. But in all seriousness, I did try to find the bank that gave him the money. And that information is not being disclosed, which is probably a good thing. Because if we're being reasonable, we all know that banks should have had better due diligence during that time period. However, I think this was an unprecedented time, and I think a lot of organizations may have done things that they ordinarily would not have done. And it's kind of hard to hold people to that kind of scrutiny given what was going on at that point in time. And I don't want to put anybody on blast like that, because that was a real tumultuous time period. But there he is. Let me see if I can make this just a little bit bigger.
I think if you click on the picture itself, it actually opens up bigger.
So let me ask you, does he look like how you pictured him?
No. I mean, I guess I could see him driving an Uber or something. He's just, you wouldn't necessarily notice him passing him on the street. Just a regular guy.
He doesn't look too happy. And the HSI agents, obviously, they didn't want to be in the picture, but you can't really blame them for that, right? Okay, so now here's my question to everyone listening. There are quite a few people still on YouTube. Again, I mean, on LinkedIn. Again, I apologize for the late start, but we're here now. So here's the question I want to ask Heather, if you're still listening. How do you think he got caught? How do you think he got caught? Because you got to imagine, first of all, this was an Uber driver who was at least smart enough to fill out the applications, and dumb enough or smart enough, depending on which side of the coin you look at it from, to lie on the applications, because a lot of people lied on their applications during that time period. He was also smart enough to try and convert it to Bitcoin, so he understood how that worked. And so seemingly this wasn't an extremely unintelligent individual. So how do you think he actually got caught? Because I'm going to tell you, that's going to be the biggest surprise and probably the biggest moment of laughter of today, if there is any laughter that comes from this pathetic incident. Ooh, okay. Heather says a family member. Okay. Okay. Marsha says went back for more. Ooh. That would have been interesting. That would have
Maybe
been
his
real
mom
interesting.
ratted him out.
Yeah, yeah. So let me ask you, Stephanie, when you saw how he got caught, did it surprise you? Did you laugh? Did you?
I don't know if I read that part. I think I may not have gotten that far. It's been a little busy.
Ooh, okay. So you give us a guess too. How do you think he got caught? Don't look it up now.
I know. Now I'm trying to read it.
Give your wildest, most outrageous guess as to how he got caught. Heather said a family member, which right, it's usually always a family that rats you out.
How about he posted it on social media? I think he posted it on
that's
social
what happened
media.
last week's, right? So Marsha said he went back for more. That's usually how, right? Because they say people typically return to the scene of the crime. If you got 2 million, maybe you could try and get 4 next time. Okay, now Stephanie is saying he posted it on social media, because the self-snitching is always a real thing, right? Okay, so here we go. Let's dig down and tell you how he got caught. Okay, so how does a guy this brazen get caught? Because listen, you can forge a tax return because he actually did do that, right? He forged documents that he gave to the bank, tax returns, bank statements, stuff like that. He forged all of that. But this guy made a mistake on his calendar. You see, as a part of his application, Bruce submitted a bank statement to prove that his company was accurate. Now, this bank statement was fake, but the statement showed transfers and deposits from February of 2020. But here's the fatal flaw. The statement listed transactions for February 31st, 2020. So when the sleuths from the IRS and the FDIC and everybody else finally audited his file, that one date, a day that has never occurred in human history, was kind of the smoking gun. And so they started to pull the proverbial thread, and they found out that Bruce hadn't spent a dime on employees. As a matter of fact, he had wired the entire $2 million to a Kraken cryptocurrency account.
Just a simple typo.
Yeah. Think about this though. See, Heather's got it right there. Heather said no spell check. Really? Okay, so think about this. A lot of people who committed these payroll protection loan frauds, they thought that they had gotten away with it because it's 2026. But the government is just now getting around to actually doing full reviews of a lot of that documentation. And he probably would have gotten away with it. Because if you look at it, everything has to be on a risk basis. If they're seeing a company that possibly made $40 million and he only got a loan, a forgivable loan for $2 million, they may have just gone past that. But seeing, I'm getting right back to it, Marsha, seeing a date, Marsha says, what's the date? Of February 31st. You can't even get there on a leap year.
Even if he would have had like AI check his Word doc before he printed that off, it probably would have caught that.
Yeah, it probably would have. But here's the thing. We didn't have AI in 2020 though, right?
Oh, that's right. Well, we didn't have it.
There you go. So, Marsha's laughing. Imagine going through the trouble of creating fake tax returns, creating fake bank statements, creating a fake company, creating all of this fake stuff. And then in the end, you did the one thing that was the easiest thing to do, and that's not screw up the date, February 31st.
And they probably could have checked that those tax returns were actually legit, but
yeah. I mean, yeah, the tax returns definitely were not legit. But imagine the date being the thing that took you down. That is insane. But again, let me go back now. He submitted fake 2019 individual tax returns claiming that his company received gross receipts of nearly $11 million in 2019 and made a gross profit of $9 million that year. So he was at least smart enough to say, I had gross receipts of this amount, I had some business expenses, and I had net receipts of this amount. He was smart enough to know to do that. But he wasn't smart enough to at least register his company Well, I guess if he had registered his company in the state of California, they would have been asking for state taxes too. So, yeah, Marsha, that's what I just said. Marsha's like, that wasn't even a leap year. That that was quite a few leap years. That was a huge, monumental jump year. That wasn't a leap year. That was a trampoline springboard year. That was.
Is that on the Mayan calendar? I don't even know.
You know what? And the Mayan calendar actually ended a few years ago, didn't it? Didn't it
Oh,
expire or
that's
ended or something?
that's right. They thought it was going to be the end of the world.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So okay. So by the time the feds unsealed the indictment in October of 2025, Bruce was out of the country. But they didn't just wait for him to come home. Here's what they did. They went after his crypto wallet. And so using a court-issued warrant, federal prosecutors managed to seize, like I said earlier, 40 Bitcoins and other digital assets. And so in today's market, to your point, Stephanie, those Bitcoins are worth significantly more than the original loan that he had gotten. So the government might make some money on this one, right? I mean, so when he landed in San Francisco this week or last week, was that this week? That was this week, yeah.
March 18th.
Yeah, the 17th. You know, they had already emptied his vault. Here's the thing, though. I'm wondering if he didn't even check it. Because if I had checked my Bitcoin before coming back and I had seen that my money was gone, I probably wouldn't have come back. Okay, so now Heather is saying that the Mayan calendar expired in 2012. I knew it was at some point in time. I just couldn't remember when. Thanks, Heather. I appreciate that because you know I'm old, and so the memory fades when you get old. Now, here's the question that I'll ask. Was it worth it? Because, okay, hear me out, hear me out. And of course, the long answer is no, of course it wasn't worth it. But just hear me out for just one moment. He was a rideshare driver who probably spent most of his days driving around Los Angeles giving people rides for $20 a pop, right? But for 1 year, he lived a life where he earned, quote unquote, hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue, at least on paper. At least on paper. I'm wondering, did he even do anything with any of the money?
I mean, the Bitcoin did go up quite a bit not that long ago. Let's see, it was October 25. It was up quite a bit. So he may have used some of it.
He may have. He may have used some of it. So, okay, let's talk about the charges here. He's facing 30 years in federal prison for each count of wire fraud. Let's see. At this point, that's all we know, right? Because he just got arrested. The indictment is just unsealed. But we do know that wire fraud is one of the charges. So.
Then money laundering, it says up to 10 years at prison.
Oh, yeah, that's right. There's the wire fraud and the money laundering for trying to move the Bitcoin.
He moved it from his account to the Kraken account, so that's laundering right there.
Oh, and by the way, there were 4 counts of wire fraud affecting a financial institution, and then 1 count of transactional money laundering. And so the wire fraud carries a maximum of 30 years each. And then the money laundering is 10 years for moving the dirty money.
I'm guessing if you please out and the government has most of the money, if not a little extra. I don't think he's going to get much time. See, or they're going to make an example out of
Yeah, and who knows which it will be, to your point. I think with this one too, though, it actually looks like they'll be able to recover the amount that was lost. So his attorney might be able to argue something there. But okay, let's talk about what struck me as weird about this one. Um, they didn't say that he lived some sort of lavish lifestyle and bought a few things. And I don't know if they know because he actually made more than they need to recover. So maybe they just said, okay, you know, we've been made whole, so we're not going to look any further. But what was the motive? Because a lot of times we can tell somebody either had an ego issue, so that's why they did it, or maybe they had someone who was sick and dying and they needed money. I was trying to figure out, what did he do with it? Why did he do it? It looked like he was just saving it for a rainy day. I don't know. I haven't been able to figure that one out.
Well, if he was in Japan, it's possible he took some out there. A lot of their real estate purchases in a lot of Asian countries are 100% cash. So it's possible that, he bought real estate. We just may not know
True,
if it was
true.
foreign.
Well, then I think it goes back to the other question: do we really care as long as we're made whole for the amount that we're out?
It might cost more money investigations than it's worth trying to go after something that is out of the country if they've got all of it plus a little back.
Oh, okay. So now Marsha brings up a good point. This was during the pandemic when hardly anyone was going anywhere. So maybe he did just keep it and he said, okay, I'm going to hold on to it. And if I don't get caught within 5 to 7 years, then I'll start to do something with it. And maybe to your point, maybe that's why the Japan trip, and maybe he did purchase some land in Japan. And now to Heather's point, maybe he did it just to be able to do it. Yeah. This one was a weird one on me. Yeah. And presumably, maybe he did use some because I would guess that he still maintained an apartment and stuff like that while he was in Japan. And I don't know how long he was in Japan.
I wonder if he was still driving for Uber during that time period that he was
Ooh,
doing all of this.
maybe he was driving Uber in Japan.
Do they have that? I assume they must have something there. Never been
You
there.
know, I'm sure there's like an Uber or an Uber equivalent. I mean, I was, what was it? A few months ago, I was in the Netherlands and there was Uber there. I took Uber to and from the airport and a few other places. So, I mean, maybe there's Uber in Japan. Yeah, Marsha's saying maybe the thrill of the. I see what you did there, Marsha. That was the thrill of the ride. I need my rim shot. That was a good one. I like that. That was good. Um, so okay, if you're just joining us today, what we're talking about is an Uber driver who, during the pandemic, falsified tax documentation, bank documentation, all kinds of documentation to secure a $2 million loan during COVID. And if we know what happened with those loans during COVID, they weren't really loans. They were all for the most part forgiven. And he got caught. And the way he got caught is quite interesting. When the government was looking at his paperwork, he put down that some banking transactions occurred on February 31st of 2020. And for those of you scratching your head, of course, that's a date that does not exist, has never existed in human history. Um, so, yeah, that's a crazy way to get caught.
I wonder if he got caught if he had that correct, or if they're just scanning through all these applications looking for outliers like that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he had some, to be fair, he did have some other red flags, right? The company that he listed uh, was not registered in the state of California where he lived, or probably anywhere else. I assume that they probably also got a hit on the EIN, the employer identification number. Looking it up, he may not, he may have used a fake EIN number. Um, because here's the thing, if he had used a real EIN number, um, oh, that would have been weird because the IRS would have been hitting on the EIN, but since he faked his income tax returns to the bank, nothing would have shown up for the IRS. Oh, wow. He did a lot of, now that I think about it in hindsight, he did quite a bit of thinking to really get this plan going. Okay.
So he's clearly intelligent. Well, just not a good grammar check.
I think that gives a whole new meaning to the phrase stupid smart. Okay. Did I miss anything else on this one?
I think so.
I can't believe you missed how he was caught. That's the
Yeah,
interesting.
I didn't get around to reading the whole thing.
Because like you're usually the one who's like, you missed this, you missed that, you missed it. And I'm like, oh yeah, I did.
It's been a busy week.
I can only imagine. Because as you can see, Thomas and Christine, they're not here either. They're having busy weeks as well, that's for sure. Um, okay, okay. So since you didn't find anything that I missed, and I'm not gonna admit to missing anything now that we're at the end. What I will say is thank you guys for joining us on this episode of the Friday Fraudster. And we'll see you next week.